Thanksgiving holiday, then a very happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope you're staying safe wherever you are, and I hope you've gotten together and connected in a safe manner with family, friends, or neighbors. If this looks different to you than usual, we have shifted our sanctuary around to prepare for the day when we can gather face to face once again. Of course, with the pandemic roaring as it is, that day is a little further away than any of us want it to be. But as soon as we can do so, and do so safely enough, we will be back here together. Today we're happy to bring you a preacher that is new to this congregation, the Reverend Kristen L. Harper, the Reverend Dr. Kristen L. Harper. She's minister of the Unitarian Church of Barnstable, Massachusetts on Cape Cod. Reverend Kristen is the daughter of our own congregation's members, Dave and Donna Jewett, and she will be speaking today about black women suffragists, a topic that's very pertinent to our recent election. If you'd like to know more about this congregation and its many opportunities for learning, growth, and connection, you can peruse our calendar and our announcements on our Facebook page or on our webpage at UUCOV.org. If you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to like this video by hitting the thumbs up icon below. Leave us a note in the comment section there, and click subscribe, the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Further, we hope you'll consider clicking the donate button on our website and giving as generously as you can there. A Thanksgiving and holiday season like this one can be a difficult time for many of us and for our neighbors. And we hope you'll find something in this service that speaks to you, maybe lifts you up or challenges you in ways that lead to spiritual reflection and personal growth. We're very glad you've chosen to join us. Welcome to church. The prelude begins our worship. Our call to worship comes from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Freedom has a rhythm to it, a longing our bodies know without words, a movement away from everything small and scared, a waking up to possibility, healing backwards and forwards. Even now, we are beginning again. We come to be free for more than ourselves, to call love the greatest liberty, to sing of loyalty, courage, and kindness, to remember that we are all doing the best we can. Despair hasn't gotten us yet, nor overwhelm, which is kind of a miracle, surrounded as we are by this much beauty. Let us worship together. Our hymn is number 1018, Come and Go With Me. We'll sing the first and second verses.
Come go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound.
Our children have their own religious education class by Zoom each Sunday at 10 a.m. If you'd like to attend or to help your child attend, login information can be found on our website at UUCOV.org or on our Facebook page. This week we have a video featuring Bobby Novak as the character known as Kid President, sharing his 25 reasons to be thankful.
So let's be real. Some days are hard. So I made this list of awesome things I'm thankful for. Yeah. Sometimes I need reminding that things are not all that bad. So I wanted to share a few because you guys are my friends. It's great to be alive. And here's some reminders why. First one, bubble wrap. When cats do their tongue, like this. I'm also thankful for the little paw pads like the cats and dogs have and the sound it makes. Oh, man. I love them. Hey, turn that back on. Oh, no. Change it. Ah, there, that's better. Music is magical. It can make anything better. Right music can make a video better. The same goes with life. Singing. I like paw pats. Singing. If something's boring, just sing it, and that will make it better. Watching paint dry. It's really cool. Old people who still hold hands. Clouds that look like stuff. One time I saw a cloud that looked like an airplane, and I realized it was an airplane. Imagination. Without it, we wouldn't have airplanes, no internet. Pants. We gotta wear them, because if we didn't, it would be sort of awkward. Pants. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Sweet. Clothes with funny names, like Windbreaker. Birthday cake. No reason at all cake. Just cake. Sorry, we filmed this while I was hungry. Forgiveness. I'm Kid President, but I ain't perfect. Ain't a word. We all mess up. Come on. Don't mess up and forget to forgive all the mess ups. Thankful plants undergo photosynthesis, using the energy from the sun to convert carbon dioxide to oxygen, providing us with the air we need to do things like this. I'm bored. Morgan Freeman's voice. Hello, I'm Morgan Freeman. I'm working on it. My voice is changing, but it hasn't changed that much. Food. Taco. Burger. I know, I already said food, but this is my list and my rules. Happiness. Sadness. Sad isn't bad. It helps you know what you care about. People. Sometimes people can be really people-y, but we need each other. Life's better with people in it. Family, friends, you. Just being alive. Sometimes we forget how it's just great to be alive. We're breathing. Some days are tough, but we got a lot to be thankful for. We just have to look for it sometimes. They say if you have food in your fridge, clothes on your back, and a place to sleep, you're richer than 75% of the world. I did not know that. So what would you add to the list? Let me know. Share this video with someone you're really thankful for. Oh, and of course, also this. Dancing! Brad and I are thankful for all of you. Seriously, thanks for giving us and the whole world a reason to dance. So what are you thankful for? Let me know. KP out. Keep going, keep going, keep going. I call this move the stovetop stuffing. I call this one the stuffed face nay-nay. I forgot one. There's something that I'm really thankful for. Uncle Jesse from Full House. This is macaroni art of him. It's beautiful. Have mercy. I'm filming a video to encourage people to be thankful. KP out.
Our meditation begins today with words from the Reverend Lisa Friedman. We live in a fragmented world that tempts us to despair. We would put it back together, piece by piece, if it were ours to choose. But sometimes the fragments are enough. In a world of cruelty, there is still power in every act of kindness. In a time of doubt, there is still power in every act of hope. In an age of division, there is still power in every act of unity. May we remember that sometimes the fragments of meaning we make are just the right size to hold in our hands. We lift up those in this community who face change, challenge, or loss this day as we hold within our hearts all who suffer. And now we pray, each in our own ways, into the silence. The hopes of this community are offered forth in the names of all those who've gone before and in the names of all those who will come after. In the names of all the helpers of humankind, Shalom, Salam, Amen, and blessed be. December 1st is World AIDS Day. Here's Steve Doublestein of our Shout group with a remembrance, followed by our director of music, Dr. Marcel Leonard, with an African American spiritual, Deep River.
Every year since 1988, organizations and individuals around the world bring attention to the HIV epidemic and those who have been lost to AIDS. We hold December 1st as World AIDS Day. The purpose of this Memorial Day is to increase awareness about HIV, speak out against HIV stigma, and call for increased action to end the HIV epidemic worldwide. Since 1981, 770,000 people in the U.S. have died from AIDS. Worldwide, numbers are estimated at 32 million, and currently 10 million are infected with HIV. In the U.S., 18,000 people still die from AIDS or AIDS-related illnesses every year. 1.5 million people are living with AIDS. Once called the gay disease, because the first cases were identified in the gay communities of San Francisco and New York, AIDS knows no sexual orientation, race, age, economic status, or religion. Passed through infected bodily fluids, all groups are at risk of infection. So many have died. Fathers, mothers, children, lovers, friends, and co-workers. Their deaths have left families shattered and countries living in fear. We remember our brothers and sisters that have been lost to AIDS by reading their names so they will not be forgotten. Their lives mattered. They existed. Although we cannot read the names of the millions that have died from AIDS, we remember their pain and their sacrifice. We honor their lives and those that are left behind. We remember those that have been lost to AIDS, including Jim Roach, Ryan White, Elise Angelini, Tim Walker, Ruben Martinez, Marcia Burnett, Pearlie Mae Douglas, Wayne Peterson, C.J. Hilliard, Chuck Dillon. These names represent the millions worldwide that have been lost to AIDS. We remember them. We honor their lives. We are resolved to bring an end to the AIDS epidemic.
As I mentioned before, Reverend Dr. Kristen L. Harper is minister of the Unitarian Church of Barnstable, Mass. She's also the daughter of our members, Dave and Donna Jewett. We're happy to be able to bring you the Reverend Kristen's sermon on Black women suffragists.
Our reading this morning is called Affirmation of Hope by Loretta F. Williams. The Dr. Loretta F. Williams served at the Unitarian Universalist Association as Director of Social Responsibility from 1980 to 1989. A sociologist and activist, she was the founding chair of the National Interreligious Commission on Civil Rights. She writes, "We, the bearers of the dream, affirm that a new vision of hope is emerging. We pledge to work for that community in which justice will be actively present. We affirm that there is struggle yet ahead, yet we know that in the struggle is our hope for the future. We affirm that we are co-creators of that future, not passive pawns. and we stand united in affirmation of our hope and vision of a just and inclusive society. We affirm the unity of all persons. We affirm brotherhood and sisterhood that allows us to touch upon each other's humanity. We affirm a unity that opens our eyes and ears and hearts to see the different but common forms of oppression, suffering, and pain. Yet we are one in the image of God, and we celebrate our hopes for human unity. Within ourselves and within the gathered community, we will discover the strength not to hide in indifference. Affirming hope, publicly expressed, energizes and enables us to move forward. Together, we pledge action to transcend barriers, be they racial, political, economic, social, or religious. We pledge to make our tomorrows become our todays. The country marked the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, which prohibited states from denying citizens the right to vote based on their gender. It was not the beginning of universal suffrage, as many claim. Rather, it enshrined the betrayal of black women by white women and the white supremacist culture that operated during the struggle for the vote. It wasn't until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that black women and men gained the privilege of the vote. And it took a further decade to fully enfranchise Indigenous and Latinx women. Today, once again, we find ourselves in the midst of the struggle for universal suffrage as laws passed 65 years ago to prevent states from erecting barriers to voting for black people were struck down by the Supreme Court in 2013. 9 states that had a proven record of denying the vote to black citizens through poll taxes, literacy tests, and intimidation were released from having to obtain federal permission to change their voting laws. Since that time, new laws have been enacted in 36 states, including the requirement of voter identification cards, voter registration hoops to jump through, disenfranchisement of convicted felons, gerrymandering of black districts with limited voting places and hours. 868 voting locations have been eliminated in black and brown communities. Marcia Chatelain, professor of history and African American studies at Georgetown University, says, "No one should be celebrating anything as long as we live in a country that has such strategically created voter suppression. We really can't claim that the United States had an incredible victory in 1920, when in 2020, there are still far too many barriers for people to vote." The successful attempts to undermine mail-in voting through the dismantling of the effective post office processing systems by the current presidential administration is a further attempt to limit voting by those who are marginalized by age, poverty, and race. The roots of many of today's struggle can be found mirrored in the path trod by black women in the push for women's right to vote. Throughout the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, women were prevented from voting by men who used their biological uniqueness as a means of control. Howard Zinn, in A People's History of the United States, points out that for women, their physical characteristics became a convenience for men who could use, exploit, and cherish someone who was at the same time servant, sex mate, companion, bearer, teacher, warden of his children. The 19th century witnessed the move of manufacturing out of the home, and this, combined with the ideology of the home being the woman's sphere, created a segregation that demoted women's productivity within the home to an inferior status. Women of this time came up against a cultural mythos that trapped in certain behavioral patterns. The cult of true womanhood, or the cult of domesticity, prescribed them to be wives and mothers who possessed the disposition of domesticity, purity, piety, and submissiveness. Only upper middle class women of leisure were able to maintain some semblance of this ideal. And as Marcia Riggs, author of Awake, Arise, and Act, points out, working class women and all black women were considered to have transgressed the cult and therefore freely available for sexual use by upper class white males. The cult of true womanhood operated differently for black women than it did for white. It debased black women slaves who were treated as genderless, as field hands, not exempting pregnant women from working or whippings, and allowed white men to further exploit slave women sexually to punish, reproduce, and replenish the slave population, as well as to terrorize them into submission. White women, on the other hand, were forced to live up to this idealization most could not, and faced social ostracism and sexual and physical exploitation as punishment for their failings. The acculturation of women into the cult of true womanhood led to a standard of femaleness which could cause and would cause divisions in the suffrage movement, where racism and classism bolstered it. The suffrage movement was not simply about the right to vote, and yet its significance was held differently for the former slaves and children of former slaves than for upper and middle class white women who led the movement. Brent Staples of the New York Times editorial board wrote in his July 28, 2018 opinion piece, "It became clear that after the Civil War, black and white women had different views of why the right to vote was essential. White women were seeking the vote as a symbol of parity with their husbands and brothers. Black women, most of whom lived in the South, were seeking the ballot for themselves and their men as a means of empowering black communities besieged by the reign of racial terror that erupted after emancipation." Rosalind Turberg Penn, in her groundbreaking historical account, African American Women in the Struggle for the Vote, 1850 to 1920, writes, "Class and economic status, organizational affiliation, region of residence, gender, racial identification, and generational affiliation determine the degree to which African American women participated in the women's suffrage movement." On January 1st, 1863, when Lincoln declared the Emancipation Proclamation, the majority of black women were enslaved, And from 1863 on, African American women were struggling to survive, to learn how to read, to find work, to find and support their families. And yet they recognized the power in the vote. And many joined the movement, understanding, as Adela Hunt Logan, an African American journalist and professor at the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, said, "If white American women, with all their natural and acquired advantages, need the ballot, that right protective of all other rights, if Anglo-Saxons have been helped by it, and they have, how much more do Black Americans, male and female, need the stronger defense of a vote to help secure them their right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? And neither do the colored citizens of the Republic lag behind in the fundamental duties of tax-paying and using the elective franchise. The price of their freedom, as far as that freedom has progressed, was too dear a price to be treated lightly." Maria Stewart, a free-born Black woman, believed to be one of the earliest American women of any color to deliver speeches which are still in print, called for the uniting of every woman's mind and voice to ensure economic justice, equal educational opportunities for children, and political privileges gained by suing for our rights together. It is clear that from the onset of the organized suffrage movement that there was tension between white women and Black women. No Black woman was asked to speak at the first Women's Right Convention in 1848 in Seneca Falls, New York. Frederick Douglass, who was credited for his oratory skills in helping launch the formal movement, was the only Black person invited to address the gathering. In 1853, Sojourner Truth, speaking to a group of white women suffragists and men supporters, called attention to this already present tension between the groups. "I've been looking around and watching things. I know it feels a kind of hissing and tickling like to see a colored woman get up and tell you about things and women's rights. We've all been thrown down so low that nobody thought we'd ever get up again. But we have been long enough trodden now. We will come up again, and now I am here." Truth recognized the racism, classism, and internalized sexism present among them. The more public separation came in the late 1860s. The 14th Amendment guaranteeing full citizenship to Black males and excluded women was a great blow. However, the controversy came to a head with the proposal of the 15th Amendment, which introduced enfranchisement of Black males and did not include women of any color. According to Brent Staples, Elizabeth Cady Stanton was so angered by the enfranchisement of Black men over women that she embarked on a Klan-like tirade against the amendment. She warned that white women would be degraded if Negro men preceded them into franchise. And Staples names historian Laurie Ginsberg as arguing persuasively that racism and elitism were enduring features of the great suffragist makeup and philosophy. Historian Faye Dudden is quoted as writing that Stanton dipped her pen into a picture of white racism and sketched a reference to a nightmarish figure, the Black Rapist, and lashed out from the pages of the suffragist paper that she and Anthony published. Her message that the passage of the 15th Amendment would mean only degradation for women at the hands of the Negro men. Mary Church Terrell, one of the first black women to earn a college degree and co-founder of the National Association of Colored Women, spoke at the 1904 National Women's Suffrage Association Convention, held that year in Washington, D.C. She listened to white women advocating for a resolution to express their concerns for children and about animal abuse, and responded when it was her turn to speak. A resolution asks you to stand up for children and animals. I want you to stand up not only for children and animals, but also for Negroes. You will never get suffrage until the sense of justice has been so developed in men that they will give fair play to the colored race. Northern white suffragists use blatant Southern racism to excuse their exclusion of black women from the movement. According to Staples, they claim they were trying not to anger Jim Crow states, and in 1913, organizers of one of the largest suffragist parade in D.C. demanded that all black participants march in an all-black assembly at the back of the parade instead of with their state delegations. Anti-lynching crusader and activist journalist Ida B. Wells refused to march at all, and Mary Church Terrell agreed to march with the colored delegation as requested, but believed at the time that white suffragists would exclude black women from the 19th Amendment. Although many African American women formed their own movement, they still moved in racially mixed settings. Fannie Barrier Williams, a Unitarian black suffragist born in New York City, a free person, graduated from a number of colleges with degrees in music, education, and fine arts, taught in schools in the South. She became a spokeswoman for black and multiracial organizations and was a militant advocate for the black community and women's rights. Reportedly, the only American person of color invited to speak at the 1896 First World Parliament of Religions in Chicago, and the only black invited to speak in eulogy of Susan B. Anthony, Williams refused to allow the exclusion of white women to determine her message of universal suffrage. We find ourselves at a moment in history when once again the right to vote for many in our country is being blocked by hurdles and barriers based primarily on race, socioeconomics, and age. As Unitarian Universalists who promote and affirm the use of the democratic process in our congregations and society at large, we're called to do everything we can to ensure that this fundamental right, this right that precedes and births all other rights, remains free and unencumbered by white supremacy. Only together, with one voice, can we prevent the waves of oppression from overwhelming us and towing us under. Only together can we push back the tide of division, greed, hatred, and fear that is leading this country. Only together can we assure the legacy of the courageous black women who sought to be recognized as fully human, fully worthy. As the suffragist Frances Ellen Watkins Harper wrote, "We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weaker and feeble of its members without receiving the curse in its own soul." Thank you.
Our hymn is number 1015 in the hymnal. I Know I Can. Here's Marcy.
The days be dark with storms, and burdens weigh my heart. The troubles we've had every time, I know I can go on when sorrow heals my soul, and burdens make me strong. The trouble waits on every time, I know I can go on.
And now a benediction from the Reverend Joel Miller, currently interim senior minister of First Unitarian Church of Rochester, New York. Let our lives be a prayer that waters dry souls, mends broken hearts, refuses to be terrorized, seeks this world's beauty, and carries us through its storms. Go in peace, walk softly on your paths, and may the light of love shine on you all your days.